And Fanbase disclaims all liability arising from the information provided through Fanbase's application. If you are requiring any professional assistance, you should consult with a qualified specialist. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the fun stuff. So Jewel, really quick before I ask you any questions today, give us a little background about yourself, the content you create, your profession, and then I'll go into some more questions.
Of course. So, hi, everybody. My name is Jewel Ellis. I was born and raised here in Atlanta, and what I do for my career is I perform at weddings and events as the flowerina, they like to call me. So that's like a cross between a ballerina and a flower girl at weddings in particular. Or we just kind of provide ballet services all over the country, just kind of like adding some sparkle, as I call it, to people's special days, and just really exposing the art of ballet in a more unique and more accessible way.
Awesome. So I'm really curious. Obviously, I've done some research, looked at your socials, seen all the amazing stuff you posted out there. What really inspired you to do this instead of having, the typical flower girl be walking down the aisle in a wedding? How did you think about including dance? I think that's a really unique detail to add.
Well, thank you. So first off, everybody asks this question whenever I get interviewed, and it's always really so funny to me because I had no plan on being like, you know what, I'm going to do ballet down an aisle at somebody's wedding. That was not something that just came to me in a dream and I'm like, I'm going to plan it out. Not at all. Somebody else actually asked me to perform at a wedding, and my first wedding performance was actually at a reception.
Oh.
And after I posted that reception performance, it just kind of carried on and morphed into, what about at my wedding ceremony? And, of course I said yes, because I enjoyed doing the reception performance so much. So it just kind of grew organically, and people just kind of continue to keep on asking me to perform at their weddings, and it just kind of grew. It really just kind of grew organically, and I don't really take the credit from that. It was really something that the clientele kind of wanted me to do, and I was just open to it and fully receptive.
That's so cool. I also feel like weddings nowadays, they're always evolving and everyone's getting really creative with like different details with it. So that's really interesting. Yeah. And then, so obviously you're a ballerina. What, for your background, what kind of dance training did you have? And had you always thought, I'm going to be a dancer, or how did that all happen?
Oh my goodness. So I actually started my dance journey at the age of 2. You're really supposed to start at 3, but I started at 2. And I really just kind of started loving it towards the age of like 11, 12. That's when I kind of started taking it really serious. Mm-hmm. And like from the very beginning, I always knew that it was something that I really, really like to do. I've always been passionate about going to practice, getting there on time, making sure my hair was the right way. And especially as a child, like you can kind of tell kids that are enthusiastic about doing something. Mm-hmm. They like, I just always knew it was my thing, so of course it came along with me all the way until it was time for me to go to college. And, normally around that time, people are like, I want to dance with the company. And I went through that whole phase too. But ultimately, I decided that I wanted to go to college. So I went to school at Kennesaw State University. And I actually have a major in public health education. So that's why I told Noah, I was like, I have to do this mental health awareness track because it kind of ties into my major.
Yeah.
And I actually just continued dancing while I was in school, kind of in the dance department. And, when I graduated, I had been doing weddings kind of like on the side of me being in school. But when I graduated, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take this full force. And I'm just going to own my own business and give, performing at weddings 100%. And that's how we got here today.
That's awesome. I actually, this is, in college and before that, but I used to be a dancer. And
What?
Yes, yeah, because I grew up in the theater. I grew up, I actually got my degree in acting and filmmaking, but yeah, I grew up dancing, doing all that stuff. And I bet it's really helpful to have like a degree in like public health and stuff, because like being a dancer, it's really hard on your body, no matter what way you want to slice it.
Yeah.
I actually broke my hip towards the end of high school, beginning of college. So that's what kind of ended my dance stuff. But
oh my God.
I know.
It is so strenuous, and people don't get strenuous mentally and physically. It takes a lot of mental discipline to like do something like as rigorous as ballet or just dancing in general. People don't really understand stuff like that until they like really see and get into the nitty gritty of it. So
yeah, you definitely have to, especially for ballet, you kind of have to alter your body a bit, do things that aren't natural. So that's crazy. I guess obviously with weddings and stuff, what is the most impactful experience you've had doing one of these weddings? I imagine like, emotionally that's a lot on you. It can be a lot on the guests because there's a lot happening, a lot of feelings that day, but go into that. Yeah.
So, a large part of my job, or one of the favorite parts of my job, is actually not even the performance aspect of it. So, when I first kind of get in contact with my clients, they do email me and we kind of go back and forth. And when they get serious, I'm just like, I like to book a Zoom consultation with them. So one of my favorite parts about the whole entire Flowerina performance process is really that first time I have the Zoom meeting with the bride or whoever I'm meeting with to kind of discuss the logistics and their vision ultimately for the day. And I meet all types of different people when I have those Zoom meetings, because most of the time they are kind of out of state. And, talking with these people that I know I'm going to have a very serious moment with later on down the road. Like I had a consult last night and really understanding their story, their background, what they want, what their vision is, and, understanding like who they are as a person and just forming a deeper relationship rather than like I'm providing you this service and you're paying me for it. That's what kind of makes it worthwhile. And I've made friends with like the brides and the clients that I've worked with, because it's just such a deeper connection. And that it kind of forms a bridge for when, they're about to get married. And I'm the last person that they're with right before they step out onto that aisle go and get married. So it's like I really have to form a bond with them. And that's the most enjoyable part for me, just kind of knowing that it's not just I'm going to go out and do, a few turns and a leap and get paid afterwards. It's really something bigger and deeper than that, honestly. I'm taking an intimate moment and crossing it between something that I love to do as well. So it's like I said, I'm kind of taking everything mentally in and I'm trying to translate it physically into the moment. So really talking with them and meeting the brides at first during that consult is very important, and it's really fun. It's really fun for me, and the brides love it too, and it makes them all feel way more comfortable with the whole experience as a whole too. So that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think that you'd be like, obviously you'd be the last person with the bride, but I didn't even think about that. That's so true.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. Also with mental health, going back to dance, obviously, the dance world can be a pretty crazy place. Talk about, I guess, your mental health, because I know, like, when I was a dancer growing up, the dance world can be a little intense with your mental health and even, like, physical health, obviously, and, like, especially with, like, body image, I feel like that's something that comes up a lot in dance, and there are some, like, older, viewpoints for, some older, like, teachers are very critical about dancers' bodies, and I feel like that has evolved to hopefully more, like, accepting stuff today. Back in the day, obviously, it didn't used to be like that. So I guess elaborate on that. How have you navigated that, and did that affect you growing up as a dancer?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It affects me to this very day. So I was trained at a classical ballet studio. We did all of the primarily European centered performances like Nutcracker and Cinderella and Swan Lake, all of those classical ballet performances that you kind of see, we trained and we put them on. We did about 4 productions a year. And like I said, at around like 13, 14, that's when I kind of started taking things a bit serious. So I was training 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. My schedule was school and dance and home and sleep. That was the schedule.
I feel that, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I kind of started maturing, like, around that age, 13, 14, I definitely saw a shift, because I was one of the more the dancers that kind of stood out. So I got a lot of good roles, but I was actually talking to my mom about this the other night. I was never quite, they have the lead and they always have the demi lead. So when I was growing up and I was at my studio in these productions, I would always get the demi lead. I was never like the prima, like with the main role. I was always the one right below that. Which I didn't have a problem with, because I loved every role that I performed, but it was just something that I took note of. And those demi lead roles, I noticed they don't partner. So for all the people out there that don't know what partnering is, it's when you dance with the man and they lift you up and turns and all that stuff. So I noticed all the roles that I was getting, I didn't really get too many partnering roles. I always got soloist roles. And it made me wonder, like, okay, obviously you start comparing yourself to the dancers that are getting those roles. And my director was very honest and very blunt, which I'm so grateful that she was, because I mean, there's no purpose in pursuing a real life career in dance if you have a director that's not going to be realistic with you. So I'm so grateful for her for doing that. But it just really made me very self-critical of myself and my body image. I'm very muscular, so I have very muscular legs, and obviously like a little bit more curvier than the other girls that were getting those partnering roles, as I was talking about. So yeah, it was very strenuous, like on me physically. I remember in high school, like doing like different diets, trying to make sure that I made weight for like cast roles and the cast list coming up. It was very it was a lot of pressure to just be experiencing at like 16, 17. But it just gets to a point where you're just like, that's what comes with the sport, honestly. You can't be a football player without maintaining a certain weight, or you know what I mean? So I learned that discipline very early on, and I still take it with me today. Like, I'll be talking with friends, family, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to make sure like I don't do this, or I need to make sure that I go to the gym so I can be fit for this upcoming performance. So even though it was really hard in the beginning, it definitely paid off, and I'm grateful for it. And it just kind of makes you mentally and physically stronger and more prepared and more professional, in my opinion, just off my experience.
Yeah. Did you ever, I don't know if you saw this on social media lately, but Dance Moms had a reunion. I don't know if you watched Dance Moms, girl.
I did see that. We were Dance Moms fanatics in this house. Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah. Did you ever have an Abby Lee? Did you ever have any of those experiences? Or...
Oh my goodness! So I kind of do compare my director to Abby Lee, but she did. The way she trained her dancers and the way she was hard on them, all of them are known and all of them are, successful in some kind of way or another. Yeah. So, I mean, you need that kind of push to bring out the greatness in somebody. And the way I perform and the way people react and compliment on the way I perform has a lot to do with the way I was pushed at that studio when I was younger. So a lot of people are like, she's being too hard on you, but I'm also in agreement, like, okay, if you can't take the heat, then maybe the sport isn't for you. You know what I mean? So you need to make sure that you have somebody challenging you at all times.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel like it's a weird, for me, like a balance, because you hear obviously like the horror stories of like there are teachers that take things too far, but then you also need that balance of someone that does push you, or else obviously in any business in the arts, rejection is a thing, and you're not gonna get the audition you want all the time. So you have to kind of prepare yourself mentally for that. Right. Which I am thankful some of my teachers, when I went to acting and filmmaking school, were kind of crazy, but a little hard, because, in the real world, once you get to the real world, it's not as harsh. You've already kind of dealt with it. So,
right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the crazy world of the arts. Oh my gosh, I haven't even looked at the chat because we've been talking.
I'm looking at it right now. Everybody is saying, "Oh yeah, same for fashion models and their roles." Yeah, it's the same. It's the same principle. We see it in all types of other different areas. Oh my goodness, Dance Moms, that's cool. Yeah, Dance Moms. We used to watch Dance Moms all the time.
Yeah, Dance Moms was my thing. I don't know if anyone here in the audience loves Dance Moms. I've watched bits and pieces of the reunion on TikTok, but that was my childhood. And I think one of the competitions I did when I was in middle school, they actually came to one of our competitions, and it was so crazy. Yeah, but it wasn't like they were filming it. I guess this was actually a real competition. Obviously they went to real competitions, but reality TV definitely has its staged moments and really planned moments. So this was an actual they're competing kind of a thing. So it was interesting. I saw them from a distance. They had bodyguards and everything. So yeah, crazy stuff. Does anyone have any questions? I have more questions for you, Jewel, but if there's anyone in the audience that has any questions about stuff that we've said so far, looking back.
Yeah, drop a question.
Yeah, drop questions just throughout the chat, and I'll try to keep an eye on it. Have you also done, speaking of modeling, photography, have you done dance photography at all? I know that's something that comes into play, especially with, your profession. You're probably getting photographed a lot at weddings.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So a lot of people, a lot of my followers now don't really know, but before I was the flowerina, I was the modelina. So when I had first graduated high school, I kind of took the route of doing more dance photography and videography. And I did my whole page on Instagram and everything. It was really filled with a whole bunch of dance shoots that I used to do, and projects and different video campaigns that I worked with different brands. And that was kind of how I got asked to perform at a wedding in the first place, because it was first off, just seeing just being transparent, a black dancer with good technique and photos. It was kind of I had a portfolio people could just look at on Instagram. So I used to do a whole bunch of photo shoots and kind of post them on Instagram and just be I'm going to make dance photography more prevalent, and before I knew what I was going to really do. But yeah, I did a whole bunch of photography work, and I enjoyed that so much. And now I kind of do a little bit less of it, but I still enjoyed it. And now I kind of, you kind of see how the modeling kind of pairs nicely with being a dancer as well, because we know how to pose and move our bodies in a nice way for the photos.
Yeah, that's true. I feel sometimes, especially I've noticed actors have sometimes a hard time doing modeling, because you have to be more expressive than you are on film. So I'm thankful for the dance background, because obviously dance, you kind of have to let go of everything and trust your body. So it's interesting, especially again, circling back to Dance Moms, but you see stuff with Madi Ziegler and her sister doing all these modeling things now, and it's interesting how it plays into a lot of the stuff, a lot of the foundation of everything.
Right.
Let me see. Oh, there was
I see 2 questions.
Yeah.
Were there any serious body issues you ever went through? Okay, yeah. So, yes. Well, I'm going to say the answer is yes. I went, in terms of injury issues, I did have, stress fractures and stuff that I just chose to push through when I knew I shouldn't have. So that kind of goes with the sport being too demanding. I remember I had a stress fracture in my leg, and we were doing a show. And I was supposed to be in a boot, and I just did not follow doctor's orders. I was doing Swan Lake, and I just was no, I have to do the show. So overdramatic and so stupid. And then I had 3 stress fractures in the same spot, like after it was said and done.
Oh, no.
And in terms of body issues, just being young and doing things like, only eating salad and chicken for like 2 weeks. Like, you shouldn't have to go through those kinds of things as like being a child. So, I mean, that definitely put a toll on me in the way like I thought I should look. I'm using air quotes. The way I thought I should look. So, I mean, I definitely count those 2 as body issues. And I don't think that anybody should have to go through that like as a child. I think they should change those things about ballet, but I mean, I don't really think ballet would be ballet if it didn't have those road bumps in it at all, though.
Yeah. No, I relate to that. I definitely had some like unhealthy choices in eating when I was younger, so it's hard. And especially, thankfully, I don't remember us having weigh-ins as much. Do you think weigh-ins does that still happen, or do you think the dance industry has kind of stepped back from that?
Well, I feel like somewhere, they probably do still do them, and I do feel like, at the end of the day, it is like a safety issue to an extent, because you don't want to make sure that you want to make sure like there's man weight and there's woman weight in partnering, so you don't want to make sure that the man will get hurt trying to lift up a dancer that, is not, a coinciding weight. So I think in terms of that, it's fine. So if you have a partnering role, it is good to kind of monitor. But for sure, I don't feel like the whole company has to be X amount of weight to, join a company or be a role. I feel like it's unnecessary. And it definitely doesn't determine how good or bad of a dancer you are, how heavy you are. Just look at the artistry. That's what I kind of look at, because now I don't hold myself to a number on a scale, but I definitely, whenever I look at dancers to perform and join my group, I always look at the way they emote and deliver an underlining message behind their dancing. Definitely not the way they look. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I feel like I think my therapist, in regards to mental health, my therapist recently said, it's hard, especially now when you get older, you're like, and you compare yourself like with weight and stuff, and she was like, why would you compare yourself now to like, why would you want your high school body? Like, you're not a high schooler anymore.
Right.
Like, you're a woman, like, like.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
It's so weird to want that, and you're like, no, like, I'm an adult. Like, why am I thinking that way? It's just crazy society standards. But let's see what else was in the chat. Tony says, how do you maintain relationships with such a demanding lifestyle?
Oh my goodness. So my schedule really does consist of me traveling a lot. I'm not really at home basically any weekend. I'm always on an airplane somewhere. So, especially with my age, I am just 23 and I graduated almost 2 years ago. So, I mean, I've always kind of been different than as I say, like the average 23-year-old or 22-year-old. When I graduated, not too many people were thinking about the things I was thinking about or doing the things I was doing. Because even when I was in college, I was traveling, but definitely not as much as I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. So when I graduated and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do weddings full time and I'm going to focus on growing my brand and doing this. And, you see that follower number kind of go up and up and up and up and up. And you see videos getting more views. You kind of start seeing relationships kind of get stronger. You see some relationships start fading away. So you really kind of have to self-reflect, or at least that's what I kind of try myself doing nowadays, self-reflecting and seeing, who's really in your corner and who really is a true supporter and is, riding with you through the ups and downs, and versus who is actually there, to be like, do you think you can follow me on Instagram now that you have like 30K followers? And you're just like, wait, what? You know, like I thought we were friends, you know? So when you kind of see little red flags like that, I try to see it for what it is and you know, just move accordingly. But I try to keep the ones that I know have good intentions and, you know, really love and support what I do and who I am aside from the ballet, because that's what's really important. Focusing on that, just Jewel the person, not Jewel the ballerina.
Yeah.
Just really focusing on those people that really have those good intentions and your best interest at heart.
Yeah, especially in the arts, you know. I mean, obviously networking is great, but some people can be a little slimy.
Yeah, and very territorial. Oh my goodness, in the dance world, very territorial too.
Yeah, it's a weird, annoying, like, stigma cultural thing. I don't know why we do it in the industry, but it's still a thing. Let's see. Memoirs of a Shy Girl. She said, I was going to ask, how do you maintain your mentality based on the demands of your roles? What are your best practices, your routines, and how do you control your mindset?
Okay, this is a good question. So I don't necessarily, one of the things I love about my job now is I don't have to, you know, practice for a certain role that somebody gives me. I don't have to do choreography that somebody else sets on me. Everything is pretty much up to me. With these weddings, I go out and I do what I want to do. The only thing that I don't really have too much control over is the music that I perform over. But let's see, the question asks, how do I maintain my mentality based on the demands? So what I kind of do is, like, it really doesn't feel strenuous on me as much as it did when I was younger, because it's more on my terms, if that makes sense. So I'm not really ever stressed with my work because it doesn't feel like work ever. I just simply enjoy dancing, and I get to do that freely without anybody else's expectations upon me, which is literally a blessing. And to kind of balance that out, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword because my work kind of doubles as my therapy in a way. I've always valued dance and used it as this, you know, this special space where I can specifically understand what this movement means to me. And even if I'm just having a day, like, I can just go and just do some type of movement in a studio somewhere, and it can just feel like I'm like releasing something. So, and I get to do that every single week. So that's a good way I kind of practice my mindset, I guess, in a way. In terms of my daily routine, I'm really boring outside of doing the weddings. I teach ballet throughout the week to my little babies. They're like 3 years old, and I really enjoy doing that. I'm really sad because we're out for the summer, but I find a lot of solace in teaching them throughout the week, and then I kind of gear and get ready for the weekend by the time I get finished teaching them. So those things kind of get me through.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love the little baby dance classes. Those are...
Yeah, they are a mess. Oh, my goodness.
So cute. Let me see. I think someone asked about your supporters. Yeah. Tony asked again, what motivates you? Who are your biggest supporters? Thank you, Tony, for the amazing questions.
Yeah, Tony has a lot of questions. Okay. What motivates me? Honestly, this is, a lot of people ask this question, and I always feel like I have a hard time answering it because I'm so self-reliant, so I always have a hard time, like, finding motivation in other people. I always kind of like, I'm like, I have to do this and I have to be great.
I feel that. Perfectionist,
Yeah, I'm very much a perfectionist, so I always kind of like find motivation in myself somehow. But no, I have a lot of people that see things in myself that I know I can't see in myself, and I want to continue to be a light and an inspiration to those people that see something in me that I know I can't see. So I just want to keep on being a good role model and a good representation and a good, just example of, what life can look like when you're doing something that you love, So, and I don't want anybody to think like, I just want to be a good example, and whatever that means for anybody, I just want them to kind of get that message from me. You don't have to fit into somebody else's mold. That's what I always say, and that kind of what I do, that kind of motivates me to just continue to show that to people, because in this day and age with social media, everybody's always comparing and contrasting what they look like, what they do, with everybody. So I just want to be that person to kind of display, do your own thing unapologetically. And that kind of is the fuel behind the fire with my motivation, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. I relate to the pushing yourself, wanting to be a perfectionist. Art is, what keeps us going. So I feel that.
Yeah.
Who is, I guess I didn't ask this, and I don't really know many myself in the dance world because I haven't been in it for a bit, but is there a certain dancer that you look up to or that you were inspired by to continue, like, your journey?
Oh my goodness. Well, when I was younger, Misty Copeland had just kind of became like really prevalent.
Yeah.
Like she was doing those concerts with Prince, and she was the first African American principal ballet dancer with American Ballet. Like she was like everybody's jam at my studio. And I was like, there wasn't really too many black girls at my studio, so everybody used to call me Baby Misty. So that was like my nickname at the studio. So I definitely was like, I want to be just like her. Like when I had the aspiration to dance at a company, I was like, I want to be just like her. And I think that kind of morphed into, me wanting to be just like her and dancing with the company. It kind of morphed into me wanting to be a trailblazer, kind of like how she was. I mean, she broke a lot of barriers and made a whole lot of dancers feel comfortable with, doing things like wearing the skin tone tights and the flesh tone point shoes, and just, really being the first to kind of like break the glass and just letting everybody come through. So that kind of became like I looked up to her in that way, not so much as in a literal way as I want to be the top dancer at a company, but I want to be the one to break barriers too. And I feel like I've done that in my own way. So yeah, Misty Copeland is definitely a big part of why I think the way I do now.
Yeah, no, she's great. I think she's had a lot of documentaries come out. I've definitely watched a couple on her.
Oh, and
yeah. Doesn't she have her own point line? Is that a thing? Or
oh my goodness. I feel like I should know if she does, but if she does, that is so great. I don't know if she does. I follow her on Instagram.
Maybe I'm like losing it, or maybe that's like in the process and not officially yet, but I could have sworn I saw her coming out with her own like point shoe line, doing her own thing, have a different range of skin tones.
Well, if she is, I'm going to have to send her an email because I want a pair.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe I made that up, but I swear I saw that on her social media. But yeah, Misty's great. Let me see. Comments about point shoes. Yeah, they're super hard, staying on your toes.
Yeah, so much.
Did you, with your feet in point shoes, were they pretty wrecked after, obviously dancing? Or how has that been? I know you lose toenails, a lot of crazy stuff.
Oh my goodness. So definitely on the front end, I struggled a whole lot. Like the bloody blisters and stuff that you see online, like that's definitely true. But now that I'm older, my feet aren't like bleeding because I definitely don't dance as much as I used to. Like I know that sounds weird considering that like it's my job, but when I was younger, I used to dance like every day versus like now I dance like maybe like 2 days out the week. So definitely not as many like gruesome blisters and things like that on my toes. But like this might be too much information, but every blue moon, like if I have like some aggressive weddings and they're out like on hard surfaces like concrete, because dancers aren't supposed to dance on concrete and stuff, the floor's supposed to be sprung.
Oh yeah.
Like if I'm dancing like that very strenuously, or if I have something throughout the week and I'm like dancing for days on end, I will lose a toenail here and there. And I actually just lost one last year, and now it's fully grown back. We have a full recovery.
Oh no. Yeah, that's the worst. Especially like if you are into doing your toenails, you got to paint over the missing space. It's just
I know, and I'm a nail girl. Like I DIY my nails. I do my own nails and my own toenails, and I'm always so depressed, especially if it's summertime. Like I can't wear sandals, but it's okay. Another thing that comes with the job.
so funny. Do you I follow one or a couple of ballet like accounts on social media. I think one of them, they go around and they say whether they like tape their shoes or what their point routine is. Do you have like a preference? Do you tape your toes, or do you do little like stuffers in your point shoes, or what do you do for that?
Yeah, so for my point shoe routine, I always wear all of my toe pads and everything underneath my tights. So I lift up my tights, and I wear these gel kind of globs, I kind of call them. They're called toe spacers, and I put them in between my first and second toe to kind of like give a little bit of space in between. And I do that on both feet. And then I just have regular, they're really thin gel toe pads. I don't really like too much padding in my point shoes so I can feel the floor. And then I just wrap my tights over the top, and then I put my point shoes on. And then for weddings in particular, I always have this. They have everything nowadays since we're like in the future of 2024. They have rosin spray. So rosin is like, that material that you kind of use. It's kind of sticky. And yeah, so they have a spray. Normally it comes in like a rock form and you have to like crack it on the ground, and it normally makes a big mess. But they have spray now. So I use rosin spray for whenever I'm doing a wedding and it's on an aisle. I always use the spray to make sure I don't slip on the surface since I'm not dancing on traditional Marley floor. And that's pretty much the routine. And then I go out there and do my thing.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Well, I'm glad you like put stuff in your point shoes. I've seen some like videos of girls who just do nothing, and it makes me cringe on the inside because my toenails would just be gone immediately.
Yeah, I've never been one to do that, but I will say my toe pads, like they're really there for like my mental. Like they really are thin. I could probably go without, but it just makes me feel better to have something. It just makes me feel better to have something.
Especially as you grow older, you don't want your like feet totally like just kicking the can,
Exactly.
Butterfly actually in the audience, she said she wanted to come up. Let me maybe or maybe Jewel, you can bring her up, I think, or ask her to bring her up. Let's see.
Okay, somebody has their hand up. Let's see if I can do this. All right. Did I do it? Hello?
Yes.
You did it.
Hello.
Oh, yay. Uh-oh, Fanbase Pro alert. Hello. Happy Mental Health Awareness Month.
Happy Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yay. So I was sitting here listening. I was like, ooh, you're going to like this. And I think it's right in line with mental health awareness. And I'm not one to really do shameless plugs or just let me just bust up in here. But I was like, you're going to really like this because I authored a book called Black Girl Be Brave. And it takes the becoming stories of 44 African-American women throughout history who really overcame great significant challenges in what their lives represented. And so one of the people that I featured was Misty Copeland. And I do this, and I was like, oh, she's going to like this. She's going to like this. I know she is. So I said, let me do it. And I do it in the form of narrative poetry, but I do it in a really unique way that each piece is very special to the woman. And so what I did is I created a piece about Misty Copeland, and I told it through the story of the Ugly Duckling. Because if you know, one of the things that she endured, and I'm just kind of curious because you're talking about, you're a ballerina and so forth, is that as a Black woman, she really had to kind of play small. Like she used to hear things like, you're not like the other Black girls. Mm-hmm. And then trying to blend in with everyone. So she never really did too much. She just tried to kind of keep her head down. And when she became a dancer, I don't know how they would describe it, but just a dancer with the American Ballet Theater, she was in the second scene. Well, she was in the first scene, but they didn't allow her to do in the second scene of Swan's Lake because someone said she didn't meet the aesthetic of the scene. Okay. And there was a black male, and he overheard them saying that, and he told her that, and that's what began her crusade, which eventually led to her becoming a part of that, opened the opportunity for her to become the first, dancer for the American Ballet Theater in its 75-year history. And so I said I was going to come up here and share if you wanted me to.
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh my God. That is amazing.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Thank you. So again, because what I thought was very significant about her becoming story was the moment she was killed off at Swans Lake, I decided to tell her story through the Ugly Duckling. And I'm not going to be looking on screen, so just everybody know that. And hopefully everyone enjoys. Y'all tell me, people giving me fire emojis and all that kind of stuff. I can't see y'all. Y'all better be giving me fire emojis. That's what I say, okay? Don't play me, okay? No, I'm joking. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to share.
Like, I wish this was video. I have like my hand over my mouth, like, oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, now I'm so hyped because this is one of my favorite pieces that I do pin, just because I grew up on the story. So okay, all right. So the ballet is brutal to the ballerina, as the world is as cruel to the Black woman. Imagine having to endure both. We must show up in spaces in which we ourselves find ourselves, Black loudly and Black proudly. Missy Copeland was never an ugly duckling. She was simply a swan that was not acknowledged, and this is her story. The ugly duckling was too full-bodied and too dark to fit in with the rest of her sisters and brothers. And even the mother duck began to cluck at how odd the little duckling looked compared to the others. And no matter how good the duckling danced, even though she was just as good as them, they still was not too pleased. And the ugly duckling was confused. Was the technique she used? Because they pecked and they hissed and they teased. So the ugly duckling ran away to find the wild ducks, who let her play because they didn't really see her as that dark. So it seemed it would be evident that this was not a compliment, but she just kept her head down to feel apart. And then a shock came to her dreams. They are killing you off, the second scene warned a wild, dark duckling friend. And at this point, life was no longer perfect. She wasn't sure if it was worth it. Again, the duckling was no longer fitting in. So the little duckling screamed that this is her dream and that she had worked hard to perfect her technique. And she then learned that her place had not been earned because the aesthetic of it, meaning her gray fur and physique. So once again, the ugly duckling was without friends, but just kept working all winter on her duckling dance. And she thought that one day her hard work would pay and she would finally be given the chance. But they still would continue to lie. When the duckling asked why, they would say that there was better dancers than she. So for 4 to 5 years, and after shedding many tears, she knew that better than her, that just could not be. So while trying to keep her spirits high and not let her hope die, someone came along and said, "Hold your head up, queen." And then she heard more encouraging words that her beauty and her talent was absolutely pristine. And the kind words of a stranger removed all of the duckling's anger, and now she felt the warmth of spring. And to her surprise, the most beautiful birds in her eyes came and held out their open wings. This felt so good, so finally to be understood and to be assured that nothing about her lacked. And she swam around. She then looked down and saw that she was no ugly duck, but a beautiful swan in black. And no matter the villain, if she was resilient, she would overcome those adversities and meet her intended fate. And once laughed at and mocked, much to everyone's shock, she is now the most beautiful to dance in Swans Lake. Thank you.
Amazing. So good. That was awesome.
My goodness.
Thank you. So.
I have chills. That was so beautiful. That was so beautiful. And you know what? Like, that's a story that I know can resonate with so many girls. Like, I like every single part. It, like, really, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for allowing me to share. And I'm going to put myself back in the audience.
Oh, thank you so much. And what was your name?
My name is Butterfly.
Butterfly. I love it. Thank you so much. And
Okay.
I really appreciate you for hopping on.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. I love some poetry. That was amazing.
I feel like we should snap.
I know. I wish there was a snap emoji, but I guess there's not one of those. Thank you, Butterfly. That was so unexpected, but so amazing. Let me see. I don't think we had any more questions, but I guess in this last 10 minutes, let me see if I've got any more questions written down that we haven't covered. Let's see. Do you have any other inspirations for dance that are like not related to like, you know, role models? Like, can they be from different aspects you take from, or is there, oh, here's a better question. Do you do other dance aside from ballet? Do you ever do like jazz, tap, hip hop, or is it mainly ballet is your bread and butter?
I mean, ballet, I've always been really passionate about it, like all my life. But when I was coming up, they had us do jazz, modern, contemporary, tap, all of those things. And even at school, because I had to get my minor in dance, they had us do all types of different things. And like we had to do like Indian dance and all types of hip hop. And they just make sure that you're really fluent in all forms of dance, not just one. But ballet has always been my jam. I don't know why it played out like that. I just think it's something so beautiful and so unique about it. I mean, how many people do you meet in a day that's just like, oh, I do ballet? Like, I've never met anybody else like that. Like, so
that is true, yeah.
It just is it's so graceful, and that's always just kind of been my thing. But
that's fun.
Yeah.
And then I have my answer, but like, granted, I just love this ballet, but my favorite ballet is Giselle. I love it. I've been obsessed with it. What's your favorite ballet?
Oh my goodness. My favorite ballet is easily Swan Lake. The music, I'm such a music person, and Swan Lake is just something about the soundtrack and the music. It just kind of brings back all the choreo. Like I immediately know like the Swan Lake choreography as soon as I hear the music. So it's just so beautiful, and it's so classic, like very timeless ballet.
Yeah, no, I love Swan Lake. I always think of the Barbie movie whenever I think of Swan Lake.
I show my kids that movie at the end of the year.
Oh my God. Love the Barbie version. Yeah, Giselle was my favorite because it had the spooky, like witchy vibes. So that was one I loved in college. Let me see. I think I've pretty much asked you everything. Do you have anything you want to share? Like any updates? Do you have any projects you're working on?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, I mainly do weddings all the time, but I will say if anybody is in Atlanta, Georgia, this week on May 24th, I will actually be doing a performance at the Loft at Center Stage in Atlanta. I'll be doing a performance opening up for John, the violinist. He's another famous event violinist that I've performed with multiple times, and I'll be opening up for his show. If you are in Atlanta and want to get some classical ballet and strings vibes this weekend, definitely check that out and see if you can get a ticket if it's not sold out already.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm going to have to write that down because that sounds amazing. I guess anyone in the audience, if you're a local to ATL, definitely check that out. But this was an incredible talk. Thank you so much for joining us, Jewel. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Of course. This was a perfect, first voice room experience, and I'm so happy that we were able to do it on Mental Health Awareness Week.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think that's, we don't have any more questions. Thank you to everyone in the chat who's been really supportive. Everyone stay tuned. We've got more audio rooms this week with other content creators and brands and artists. So stay tuned, everyone. Thank you for this awesome talk. Have a great night.
All right. Thanks, Maddie. Have a good one.
Yes,
Bye, everybody.
Bye.